The story of the Block Rosary Crusade is deeply tied to the Catholic Church's devotion to Our Lady, and it reflects how ordinary people, families, and neighborhoods can be transformed by prayer. To understand the origin of this movement, we must first look back to the long history of the Rosary itself, and then trace how it spread into neighborhoods, especially in Africa and in places like Nigeria, where it has taken on a powerful life of its own. The Rosary, as many know, is one of the most beloved prayers in the Catholic tradition. It is a Christ-centered prayer seen through the eyes of Mary, meditating on the mysteries of Christ's life, death, and resurrection. The devotion began to take a more structured form in the 13th century, when it was strongly promoted by Saint Dominic and the Dominican order as a weapon against heresy, and as a means to lead the faithful back to God through prayer and meditation. For centuries, families prayed the Rosary together in their homes, and parishes often encouraged communal recitation. However, in the 20th century, the devotion took on a new and urgent force, especially following the Marian apparitions at Fatima, Portugal, in 1917. There, the Blessed Virgin Mary appeared to 3 shepherd children, Lucia, Jacinta, and Francisco, and urged the world to pray the Rosary daily for peace, for the conversion of sinners, and for reparation for offenses against God. Mary's words at Fatima were very clear. Prayer, especially the Rosary, had the power to change the course of history, to stop wars, and to bring about the triumph of her Immaculate Heart. The Fatima message spread quickly around the world, and by the mid-20th century, Catholics everywhere were renewing their commitment to the Rosary. Priests, bishops, and lay faithful began organizing Rosary rallies, family Rosary crusades, and parish Rosary societies. One of the greatest promoters of the family Rosary was Father Patrick Peyton, famously known as the Rosary Priest, who coined the phrase, "The family that prays together stays together." His crusades reached millions across the globe, reminding people that communal prayer in homes and in neighborhoods was just as powerful as the prayers said within church walls. It is in this wider context of Marian devotion and Rosary renewal that the Block Rosary Crusade was born. The idea was simple but profound. If families and neighbors could gather outside, in the streets, in courtyards, or in front of simple roadside shrines to pray the Rosary together, then entire communities could be consecrated to God through the intercession of Mary. The block here refers to the neighborhood or immediate surroundings. Instead of limiting prayer to the parish church alone, the Rosary was brought to the very heart of the community, right where people lived, worked, and shared their daily struggles. The Block Rosary Crusade gained particular strength in Africa, especially in Nigeria in the 1960s and 70s. This was a time of tremendous social and political change. Nigeria had just gained independence, and not long after, the nation was thrown into the turmoil of civil war from 1967 to 1970. Communities were fractured, families displaced, and the people longed for peace, healing, and unity. It was during this period of uncertainty that the devotion of the Block Rosary became a light in the darkness. Children, in particular, became the heartbeat of the movement. Groups of children would gather at a designated spot, sometimes in front of a simple Marian grotto, or even under a tree, carrying small statues of Our Lady, rosaries in their hands, and candles in their midst. They would kneel together, reciting the Rosary with simplicity and faith. Adults soon joined, parents and neighbors encouraged their children, and gradually, entire blocks and villages were praying together. The Rosary, which began with a few voices, grew into a chorus that filled the evenings with hymns, litanies, and Marian prayers. This grassroots form of prayer caught the attention of the Church. Priests and bishops recognized it as a powerful tool for evangelization, catechesis, and community building. The Block Rosary became not only a devotion, but also a small school of faith. Children and young people were taught the catechism, learned the stories of the Bible, and grew in their love for Mary and Jesus. Through the simple act of praying together, they became missionaries in their own neighborhoods. What made the Block Rosary unique was that it was not confined to church buildings or formal organizations. It was the Church going out into the streets, meeting people in their homes and local spaces, reminding everyone that prayer belongs everywhere. It was a living witness of the words of Christ. "Where 2 or 3 are gathered in my name, there I am in their midst." The movement spread quickly. In cities and villages across Nigeria, you could find small groups kneeling around a candle-lit Marian statue, their voices lifted in prayer. In some areas, competitions and rallies were organized, where different block groups would gather for Mass, processions, and Marian devotions. The Block Rosary became a force of unity among Catholics, strengthening their identity and their faith, especially among the youth. Over time, the movement became more structured. Leaders were chosen to guide the prayers, songs were added, and catechism classes became a regular part of the gatherings. It was not just about repeating prayers. It was about forming disciples. Many priests, religious sisters, and dedicated Catholic lay leaders trace their first deep encounter with God and the Church back to those humble gatherings at the Block Rosary. The origin of the Block Rosary Crusade, therefore, is both global and local. Globally, it was inspired by Our Lady's call at Fatima, by the push of the Rosary priest, and by the worldwide renewal of Marian devotion. Locally, in places like Nigeria, it was born from the needs of communities seeking peace, unity, and hope in times of trial. It was born from the faith of children who led the way, and the willingness of parents and neighbors who followed their example. Today, the Block Rosary Crusade continues to thrive in many parishes. It remains a reminder that prayer is not restricted to Sundays or to church walls. Instead, it is meant to be the heartbeat of the community, transforming streets, neighborhoods, and entire societies. The movement shows that the Rosary is not just a private devotion, but a public proclamation of faith. It is a statement that a community entrusts itself to God through the Blessed Virgin Mary. When you see a Block Rosary today, with children kneeling in front of a simple Marian altar, remember that you are witnessing a tradition that began decades ago, rooted in Fatima, nourished by the struggles of communities, and kept alive by the faith of ordinary people. Its origin is a testament to the power of prayer, to the importance of unity, and to the role of Mary as Mother of the Church, who gathers her children together and leads them to Christ. The Block Rosary Crusade teaches us that holiness begins in the family, spreads to the neighborhood, and extends to the entire world. It reminds us that in times of war, peace can begin with prayer. In times of confusion, clarity can come from the Rosary. And in moments of weakness, strength can be found in Mary's maternal intercession. So when you hear those familiar words, "Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with you," echoing from a Block Rosary group, know that it is more than just a prayer. It is history, it is tradition, and it is a living flame of faith that continues to inspire generations. The origin of the Block Rosary Crusade is not only a story of the past, but a call for today, to gather, to pray, and to entrust our communities to the care of the Blessed Virgin Mary.